In the Cobb TV studios, I'm Ross Cavett with Cobb Commission Chairman Mike Boyce for our weekly visit here on the first floor of 100 Cherokee. And it's this year we're taking Veterans Day and observing it as a county holiday for the first time. Here we're getting ready to videotape the parade that annually goes through the Marietta Square. But I know it's a day very close to your heart.
Well, obviously. Look, both my mother and my father served in the military. Both were in World War II. My father stayed on for a career. I had two other brothers. They were in the military. My oldest son went in the Marine Corps and served in Iraq. So we have a military tradition in our family. Well, I think it's important that on a day like today, on a day like on Monday, which is when we're going to be observing, which to my utter amazement, Veterans Day has not been a county holiday. And given that we have somewhere between 40 and 50,000 veterans in Cobb County, depends on which source you listen to, and that we are a very patriotic county, and we really do honor our veterans. I just found it surprising we had not, chosen that as one of our holidays. But Monday, we're going to do just that. We're going to recognize not just the veterans, but also their families and all those people who supported our veterans, because it's a different way of looking at how we, take a look at veterans today. And I think that's a day where we want to thank everybody that took care of those who served our country. But it wasn't always that way. I came in the military in 1968. My math doesn't right. That was over 40 years ago now. And I came in during a time when we had all kinds of issues with our military. The war obviously divided the country. It was a very, very difficult time in America. But I often wondered why, they took it out on the troops. If you had a problem with what the troops were doing, you should have been calling Washington. The troops were simply doing their job. And markedly different today, a lot of them were drafted. So they probably didn't want to be there either. But those that went served. And unfortunately, some of them didn't come back. But I recognize that during my early days in the Marine Corps, we had serious racial problems. We had serious drug problems. It was just not a pleasant time to be around. And those that hung around for as long as I did, I believe our greatest achievement wasn't all the battles that we won, although clearly winning wars is important. But I think it's the fact that when I left, 30 years after I came in, it was a much different military where I could go into a dining hall and sit there and look at all these young men and women eating lunch like it was the most normal thing in the world. And I think that was our achievement, is that we finally decided that we're going to stick to a standard, and that's the standard we're going to measure everybody by. And if you didn't want to live up to that standard, we didn't want you around. And I think every service finally recognizes that you don't lower your standards. You have to adhere to them. You got to hold people accountable for them. But more importantly, you have to imbue them with a sense that what their mission is important, and they're important too. So today's military, in many ways, and I'm grateful for it, is better led, better equipped, and better trained than mine was. And I think that I cannot say enough good things about those people today who wear the uniforms, but just as importantly, the families that are behind them and the communities that are behind them today, because it seems that in October we had Public Safety Month, and we're still doing a lot of those events this month. So we sort of, I see a little sense today of we're treating some of our public safety officials, our police officers particularly, the same way we treated our troops in the 1960s, is that we don't like what's going on somewhere else, so we take it out on the police officers, which is why we're having some problem retaining our police officers, is they don't feel appreciated. And so why, no matter how much money you pay them, why would I want to come into something where we're not, people don't care for us? And I think that's just important and imperative on the board, that we do everything we possibly can to show our public safety officials, like our employees, that they are that public safety is number priority. But those that execute this policy are the people, and they have to understand and see from us by our actions that we clearly in our heart and in our actions appreciate them, and doing so by providing the appropriate compensation, the benefits, but more importantly, an attitude that we care about them, we want them around. And today, I was at a function, as you were, where we recognized some of our employees who are also veterans in their own ways. We had a lady today, Brenda Lake, who is truly one of my heroes, who's been with the county 50 years. And we had two other employees that had been with the county 45 years, and one of them being Sheriff Warren. And then we had one other lady that was with the county 40 years. Now, you can't tell me that these 4 people stayed with Cobb County government because of the money. You know, one of the greatest lines ever was that Steve White, who was the MC, when Brendan got recognized, said, "Hey, Brendan, you know, there is a rule of 80. You know, Brendan could have retired a long time ago, because the rule of 80 means how long you've been in the service plus your age. If they add up to 80, I believe that's how the rule applies." And well, I'm not going to say how old Brenda is. That's very ungentlemanly. Clearly, being around 50 years, she's more than qualified to retire, and yet she has no intention to do so, because it's a family. And so we have veterans today, and I hope that you can show some of the pictures of just we probably recognize somewhere around 50 people today that have been with the county 25 years or longer. And they are our veterans. But they're our veterans just because their families also supported them and their friends supported them. They're the ones that make the county look good. So in our own ways, we have veterans that wore the uniform of our country. And I'm just proud to say that I had the opportunity to do so. It was an honor to have done so. But I think equally so, those today that wear the Cobb County logo in their job and on their shirts and on their cars and wherever they wear the Cobb County logo, they are our special people. And I'm just pleased to say that we're going to continue to do all we can to show them how much we appreciate them, not only just in compensation and in their benefits, but in our outward actions, that we're grateful every day for all that they do to make Cobb County look so great.
I was shocked when I saw the number of plaques on the table of people who've been here 25 years.
Sure.
But and we've also struggled with retaining employees across the county. I think it's maybe a generational thing. The younger generation may not plant roots like they did years ago.
Well, it could be. Like again, going back to our military time, 75% of the people who join the military get out after 4 years. I mean, you can re-enlist, and I'm sure that most of those, if they wanted to re-enlist, could do so. They would qualify for it. But they've chosen after 4 years that what they wanted out of the military, they got out of it. Discipline, a focus, a meaning in life that will carry them through the rest of their lives. And they want to take those tools and they want to build a different kind of life on it. And I don't think that some of our employees are any different than that. Like, let's talk about our police officers, okay? First of all, there's a lot of similarities between a police officer and being a person in uniform. You're both carrying weapons, and you're carrying weapons because you're dealing in a world that sometimes can be very violent. But we give them superb training. The military today, it's about $1 million a person to train, the guy who carries the weapon or whatever they do, all right? And I'm not sure what the latest figure was for our police officers, but I know it's not cheap. But after, it's hard for me to imagine, and I do ride-alongs with them, as you know, that it's hard, making traffic stops over 4 years, that you might not get a little bit jaded, because people are not always saying, "Thank you so much for stopping me and giving me that citation." I just don't think that's the normal sequence of events. So, you're always working in a world where people sometimes are not very kind to you or very courteous to you. And that's got to wear at you after a while. So I can understand why some police officers, after 4 years, saying, this is not what I thought it was going to be and I want to go do something else. I also understand that some police officers think that the grass is always greener on the other side of the hill. But I can tell you right up front here is that when I first came in the military, and even today, I was looking at the military pay scale this morning, a sergeant in the military today, after 4 years, makes less than $40,000 a year. Now, I want to be upfront about this. They get some other pay and allowances that help him. But nonetheless, 4 years in the military, and if you've been in the military today, whether you're in the Army or the Air Force, Navy, whatever, you do one thing today, you deploy. You're gone a lot. And when you're home, you're not home because you're out training. So after 4 years, you're making less than $40,000 a year, which is, by the way, less than what we're paying our police officers. So let's just take that across, sort of cross that across to the police officers here, is that after 4 years, you're hopefully going to make somewhere between $45,000 and $50,000 a year. And you may not get the same kind of benefits that a military guy gets after 4 or 5 years, but there's quantifiable and qualitative differences that enhance your quality of life. They might induce you to stay. But the number one reason that I believe that you should stay is if this is what you really want to do in life. If you really want to be a police officer, or you want to be a soldier or an airman or a Marine or a coastie or a sailor. If that's what you want to do, you have to understand that it's not always going to be smooth sailing. And there's going to be times in your life when you feel like that your careers are being slowed down or not given the kind of path that you're looking for here. But if you hang with it long enough and you stay loyal and dedicated to that, it will reward you in the long run. So if your whole criteria for staying in is for money, then I just tell them the same thing I tell every single new employee that I speak with. As you know, I attend all career orientations for our employees. Public service does not mean that you get top dollar. Just comes with the territory. I understand that not everybody is 100% committed to doing public service, and there might be some circumstances where you take the job thinking that the compensation will be important to you. But if the compensation is what drives you, you will always be disappointed. Because there's always going to be somebody out there probably making more money than you that you think you should be making as much as they do. It doesn't work out that way. Life's not fair. So we try to do here is to provide a career path for our employees and our police officers where if you remain loyal to us, in the long run, we will take care of you. And right now, we've done a number of things over the last 3 years to show our police officers and our firemen and our deputies that we recognize that we needed to do more, and we have done more. And I know out in the street right now, there's this, the local newspaper has been making an article about the step and grade. Well, as much as I would love to guarantee a certain income stream for every officer, fireman, and deputy in Cobb County, there's no way that we can hold any board to that. Because what we could put into law today by passing an agenda item, the board that comes after us could change all that. So there's no guarantee of any of that stuff. And there can't be because circumstances change where in the good years, you do a couple things. You put money aside for the rainy days, but you also try to find ways to reward your troops, all right? Because you have to take care of your people. I don't care what else you do. That should be your number one priority. Take care of your people because they're the ones that are going to execute your policies. And when you let your political ideology get in the way of holding your people hostage for your political ideology, they see that, they don't like it, and they leave. They have to see that every single day you're fighting for them. And I get the part about the fact that how we fight for them is going to be different, and I'm fine with that because there's different ways, there's 1,000 ways to get to the same objective. But the employees have to see that we care about them, and the police officers and deputies and firemen to see that also. So the step and grade is our next program on the horizon that we're looking at to find a way to incentivize them to stay with us, but also to recognize that they bring a special skill set to this county because public safety is our number one priority. And in order to achieve that, we have to do certain things, provide them special training, which makes them probably different than just about anybody else in the county. And to say that they're not different is not dealing with the reality. They are different, and in some ways they have to be treated differently. But it's not an open-ended checkbook. This county has a left and right limit, and that's called the millage rate. And whatever that millage rate brings in, that establishes how much money we have to play with here. And I've said it once, I said it again, and I'll say it tomorrow. This chairman has no intention to raise the millage rate anytime in the near future. Somewhere far down the road, circumstances may dictate that. But right now, we're getting the millage rate we need exactly to provide the services that the public wants us to provide. And if you want to provide more than that, then you're going to have to go find extra money to do that. And I realize there's some efficiencies in any government, but they're never going to be the degree that you're going to need to bring the extra income you see to get to point B. And I'm just looking for somebody else to lead that millage rate increase, and I haven't heard anybody stepping up to that plate and carrying that flag.
So for those who aren't familiar, what is the difference of step and grade compared to what they're getting now, and why would it benefit law enforcement?
Okay, well, all the step and grade does is it gives them an idea of what it is they would be getting every year if they stayed another year with the county. All right. Right now, the proposal is that their base pay would go up 3% a year. Okay, and of course, that would be based on merit. You'd have to meet a certain standard or exceed it. If you don't meet the standard, we're not going to give you that extra pay raise. So that's something that it's not guaranteed. You can reasonably plan on it. And why is that so important? Because we didn't get into this hole overnight. of compensation for public safety, and we're not going to get out of it overnight. We need to gradually dig ourselves out of this hole. We should have been doing something with public safety a long time ago, but I'm sorry, we didn't do that, but that's water under the bridge. This step and grade will gradually, over time, bring everyone to a level that I believe reflects their skill set and their importance in this county and the job that they do. And that's what I'm talking about. If you stay dedicated to the program we have here, we're eventually going to get to where you want to be. But if you want to get there overnight, it's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because the millage rate isn't there to provide the revenue to do that. The second thing it does is that it responds to the concerns that we heard last summer that they want a step and grade. Okay, and we did it. We increased compensation last year. We provided additional incentives. So next year we'll continue to show that we heard you, and this is our proposal. It's out on the street right now for discussion. And like everything else, last year when we started the discussion about the incentives compensation for public safety, it started at 4%. Well, guess what? By the end of the discussion, it went up to 7%. All right. Plus, we threw in some incentives. So it turned out to be a better deal. Why is that a better deal? Because we allowed time for the discussion to breathe, to bring in outside points of view, and then more importantly, to allow 3 of us on the board to say, yeah, this is something I can live with. Because all politics, if it's well run, is about a compromise. Not about compromising your principles, your standards, but compromising what's the best way to get somewhere that we all eventually get there. Because if you don't do that, then you don't go anywhere. And right now, next year, as we all know, all I'm looking for here is we're keeping the millage rate the same. Want to continue to reduce the water fund transfer, which leaves more money in the hands of the water department, so they don't have to raise your water rate. And then the other point is, of course, adding additional compensation or incentives to the police by the step and grade.
And I know we've already talked at length on this program about the difficulty of just finding qualified people to be law enforcement officers. But if you do get in and stay, as you mentioned, it has shown it's worth your while. Yeah,
as a matter of fact, I asked HR to print out a spreadsheet today of all the officers, police, not sheriff or fireman, but all the police in the department, and from the highest paid officer to the lowest paid officer. And it's kind of interesting. There are actually some police officers here that are not in the command structure. I call them, the line officers, the patrolmen, the field train officers, the sergeants that are making, $90,000 to $100,000 a year. And I think they're the ones that recognize is that the system allows you, to make a significant compensation if you so choose to do that. Now, everybody has a different life story. We have officers that are married and both of them bring in enough income where they don't choose to work additional hours. And I'm not saying that you should have to live in additional hours, but I've always said from day one, the county pays a living wage. That's what we do. That's what we're committed to do. And we pay great health care benefits. So we provide, what we think is a standard of living that you can live on here. But I'm not even going to get involved in what it is you're going to do with that money, okay? I'm not going to tell you what the best way success is. What I'm telling you is that when you come into Cobb County today, you know exactly what you're going to be making, all right? And if you're a police officer, you can see how much you might be making because that's out there as a matter of public record also, depending on what kind of job you want to do and how you want to structure your career pattern. So again, there's no one set answer, but I do know that there's the narrative out there that we're having trouble retaining police officers. Well, the reality is that for the last 10 years, we are always somewhere around 10% of being short of what we need. Okay, it doesn't matter what year it's been. Some years it's more, some years it's 12%, some years it's 9%, but it's somewhere around 10%. And this year is no different. And I know that there's people out there trying to push the story that we have a police shortfall. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've always had a police shortfall. All right, we've always been 10% less than what we need for various reasons. And we have the money in the budget to be fully funded to hire every single police officer that we need to. We simply can't find them. All right? And I get the part about the fact that there are people going out the door. But there's people going out the door because they're retiring, We have people going out the door because they're getting a job with the Selective Service. And we get people going out the job because they think they're going to find a better, high-paying job somewhere else in the region. There's a lot of reasons why people leave. It's not one single factor. And what I'm asking people right now is let's see what impact the additional pay raise and incentives do over the next year before we sit here and judge that what we've done hasn't achieved anything. Because the police officers did not receive their first additional paycheck until the end of last month. All right, and we can't possibly say that after 1 month the system has failed. The program has failed or succeeded or failed. We need to take time to look at this, and also, bring into consideration all the recruitment efforts that we're doing, both on the police side and the fire side, and the sheriff's side, to bring in more people. But we are no different than any other police department in the nation. We're all having trouble finding the right standard of person that we believe should wear a badge and carry a gun. And it goes back to my initial story. We do not want to lower our standards, because I went through this in the 60s and the 70s. We never want to do that again, at least in my Marine Corps. And I'm going to carry the same lesson forward in our police, sheriff environment. We do not want to lower our standards. I would much rather have not enough people, but who all meet the standard, than have the right number of people where 25% of them don't meet the standard. Because I'll guarantee you, we'll be spending 90% of our time on that 25% that didn't meet the standard, trying to deal with those.
Yep, and we've seen that over and over at other locations. So you've got the red jacket on. Monday's Veterans Day. What are your plans for that day?
Well, actually, it's for the whole weekend. We have a program. East Cobb Senior Center has a program for veterans on Friday. I was at a program on Wednesday that the Excel alumni put on. We have the Marietta Parade on Sunday. I have Marine Corps Ball, which for some reason has not yet been established as a national holiday. I don't know why that is. But I wear this jacket today because I'm a member of a Marine Corps League. But I'm sure the other branches of the service, they have their own veterans groups they're very proud of. So then Monday is the Veterans Day Parade that will end at the square, and I'll be in the viewing stand with lots of other Veterans Day saluting those veterans and their families and their friends as they walk by.
Yeah, and we're hoping for good weather. I know it's supposed to get cold, but we'll be out there nonetheless.
I'll be out there nonetheless.
All righty, appreciate it. And again, a lot going on, so make sure you subscribe to our newsletters, check out our Facebook, YouTube, and social media feeds, and just stay tuned to what's going on in your county, because we're heading into the holidays, but there's still a lot on the plate.
Okay.
Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you.